tātou tūna kia Anita, tō tātou tūnga o te hahi ringati ki te timata hiau tō tātou hui, kia koe Anita.
Tēnā tātou, ko huihui mai I raro I raro I tēnei āwhatanga, hui anō ai ka tukatau I ngā inoi mō tō tātou nei hui, anō hoki mō tō tātou nei rā katoa. Me timata. He hono rehi trori he maungaro o ki unga ke whenua he whakaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa. E te matua ki tama te wairo tapu. Nei mātau e whakarau I ko mai nei, mātau I tēnei whare, no hoki ngā whanonga I raro I te manakitanga o tō mana, e ihoa nā reira tukuna no hoki kia mātau katoa, tō korowai ātawhai, tō korowai manaki, no hoki ki wa tātou nei whānau, e noho moho au nei, tukuna no hoki te manakitanga ki tēnā o tātou e noho mane nei anō hoki I raro I te kapua o te pauri, no tō tātou nei whānau, kei rungo te marae o waiawa I tēnei rua. Nō reira, e te aso hono mātou punonga I tēnei rā ki te wairo tapu ki te kōre ki te ngākau takatai, ke whakanui a koe runga I te ngākau hipeneta, e te whaiatono kia koe noho mai nai runga I tō torona, e noho I ko nā koe puru mai nai te runa kitanga mō mātou. A whitia mai te akino ki o mātou tinana, ki o mātou wairo hoki ki ato moehoai mātou ko koe a ihua kōre ki toi ngā tapu, I te timatanga te kupu ko te ato anō taua kupu I te timatanga nāna, ngā mea katoa I hanga ka hori te tahi mea, e kore te hanga ngā mea I hanga e ia. I aia te ora, ako te ora te māramotanga mō ngā tangata katoa I roto I te pauri, te māramotanga I hitana, te oi ki hai mau te pauri kōre ki toi ngā tapu. Amne.
Ka pai. Anu rira, te mihi tuatahi kia koe te whaia, Anita Nauri tuku tō tātou ino ki te atu I tēnei ata, mo tō tātou huihuinga, anu rira tēnā koe. O tira, he mihi kia rātou ma ngā mate o te wā, o te motu, kei runga I ngā marae maha, haere atu rā koutou moi mai I roto I te mangaro o te aso. Ki mai kia tātou te hunga ora, anu rira tēnā koutou, he paku mihi kia koutou ko tai mai runga I te whakātiranga tō tātou huihuinga I te Zoom, anu rira tēnā koutou, anei mātou ngauri o te Whakatōhea ko tai ki te tukunanga kōrero e pāni ki tō tātou kaupapa te TK labels, no rira tēnā koutou katoa. Kāri hero te mihi, no rira tēnā koutou katoa. Kei a koe Maui.
Kia ora. Tēnā korua Anita Rao Kodani. Nā koru e kawe ngā tikanga koro mākui mā no reira tēnā korua. O te rā tātou katoa, tēnā tātou. Look, hey, yeah, just wanting to extend a welcome and greetings to my whanaunga o te Whakatōhea, kia ora koutou. Our colleagues and colleagues from around the country, some of the other iwi that have been involved in pilot project around the TK labels. This is alongside Whakatōhea, Tāoho up at Te Roroa, Mark over at Taranaki Maunga, kia ora korua, and other colleagues from around the country, Anahira Mā, Sean from Ngā Tonga, you guys, great to have you on here as well. We'd also extended an invitation to some of the members of the local context team, so they're on here too, and the local context Indigenous communities working group. So there may be some people that jump in as well, and just so everyone knows, this session is being recorded so it can be shared with some of the other communities that are thinking about whether the traditional knowledge labels are something which they might like to apply in the context of their mahi as well. But I'm just really excited, being from Whakatōhea, to see what these guys have been doing and how they put things together. They gave a presentation to our trust board last weekend, which was great to see, and looking forward to hearing more about it today as well. So kia ora koutou. Oh, just other thing too, just wanted to acknowledge the local context directors as well. So Jane Anderson is here on the call, but also Kim Kristen and James Francis too. So kia ora koutou.
Well, kia ora tātou. I think before we get started, it'd be nice to introduce ourselves. We'll start off at our end. So those of you who I haven't met before, I'm Danny Pairuru. I'm just going to zoom in. I don't know if you can see us very well.
No,
I'll just zoom in so you can see.
no. He's not to play with the remote. Yeah.
Kia ora. I'm Danny Pairuru. I'm the iwi Development Manager at the Whakatōhea Māori Trust Board. One of the services that we run is Te Hikaroa, a place called Digitech, and we'll talk more about that a bit later on. So seeing as Rangi Māori is in the camera, I'll go to her next. Oops.
Kia ora everybody, morena. I'm Rangi Māori Biroa Hau, and I'm the creative innovator at Digitech.
Me. Kia ora whānau, I'm Courtney Papuni. I'm the program designer and facilitator at Digitech. Well, actually, just a program designer now because I got a facilitator. But yeah, so I am tasked in this project in particular with rolling out the training to the iwi.
Tēnā tātou, ko Anita Kurei Paruru tōku ingoa, he uri no Ngātira, ko au te kaiarahi maurua mō te rautaki mātauranga o Whakatōhea maurua. So I assist in the delivery of our education strategy called Whakatōhea maurua.
Right, and just at the other end of the table.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa. My name is Shanique Watawa and I'm the admin facilitator at Te Hikaroa. Kia ora.
So just going around the Zoom, maybe start off back with you, Janet. Janet, sorry.
Janet.
Kia ora no tātou, nā mihi atu ki a koutou katoa, ko Janet Hamilton PSA hau no te whānau apanui tōku iwi. Ko te local context, kai whakahaere, ahau, nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm the local context program lead, Janet Hamilton PS from Te Whānau Apanui. Kia ora, thank you, Whakatōhea, for doing this presentation today. Nā mihi atu ki a koutou katoa.
Kia ora.
Sian?
Tēnā koutou, ko Sian Marie Case te tōku ingoa no ngā puhi me te whānau apanui, ko te pautaki o te awe kōtuku kei ngā taonga. Kia ora, Sian here, project manager at ngā taonga, facilitating the te awe kōtuku projects, of which the traditional knowledge labels are one. And thank you for having us.
Jeanette, we can't see all the names, so if you could just go around for us, please.
Mark, please.
Kia ora koutou, ko Mark Wipati taku ingoa. I'm the Pōkokiri Operations Manager for Te Kahui o Taranaki Iwi. We've been working on this this local context piece a little bit with our whanaunga Holden Hohaya, and really interested to see what the team at Whakatōhea have for us today. I'm really excited about their presentation. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Mark. Corey.
Kia ora, hi. My name is Corey Rowe, and I've been doing the beta testing on the local context hub, and I'm very excited to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Kia ora, Corey. Jane.
Kia ora, Jane Anderson, Director of the Local Context Project with Maui and Kim and James. It's lovely to see you all. Hello. Yay, so excited.
Kia ora, Jane. Tau.
Maria whānau, ko tāho patoa o tēnei. No kaimahi no o te roroa up here on the west coast of Northwood. I just wanted to mihi too, was it Anita? For our karakia this morning. And aroha mai, I'm just going to delve a little bit here because I can. You're a kure, ne?
Aye.
Okay, so yeah, just a mihi to you because one of my uncles is residing over there in Waiaweka. That would be Gani Moronga.
Yes.
Uncle Gani and my mum are brother and sister. So mihi to you, whānau.
Yes. So Gani, his son, is my brother.
Oh, Junior.
Yeah, so his parents, they adopted my brother from our family.
All right.
But yeah, that's how fun.
It's a small world.
Yeah.
Very small.
Right. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Oh, awesome. No, that's fantastic. Just in regards to the TK labels, I've largely been a bit of a spectator, but an avid spectator because it's obviously it's a big kōrero within the science community and for whānau who are very interested in protecting our taonga. So you know, there's a lot of noise happening around it. I get quite frustrated with what seems to be everybody trying to do a version of you know, something hugely important. Don't get me wrong, but ever sort of since being introduced to this kaupapa around the local context, I've really seen it as a mechanism that actually could have some huge tangible benefits. So I'm still here, I'm still spectating and watching. It's just trying to build that our whānau around it, like you guys clearly have in Whakatōhea. So I'm really interested yeah, no, quite actually honoured to be listening to your kōrero today. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora tā oho. John.
Kia ora, thanks Janet. Kia ora koutou, ko John mō tōku ingoa, kei Idea Ho amahi ana. So I'm one of the team here at Idea, Indigenous Design and Innovation Aotearoa, representing our awesome crew of Māori designers who've been working alongside Jane and Maui in particular for the last couple of years, designing out the labels, the local context system, and now working with Jeanette, Corey, and some of the rest of the crew in this kind of latest round. So really excited to hear from Whakatōhea about and others about how this program's really making a difference. Kia ora.
Kia ora, John. Ana hera.
Tēnā rā tātou te whānau ko huhu mai nei a Rorohiko, he mihi nui rau ati kia koutou o Whakatōhea. Aira, he tikana ngā mihi kua wihia i tā koutou kaha ki te mahi pēnei i te taho o Maui mā. Nā te mea mōhana tātou tana kore taketanga, e rangi pai ana tēnā, me tana māroikitanga, pai te kaha. He uri au o te whare tapu o Ngāpuhi, e rangi ka noho ai kei raro i te maru o whātua nuku whātua rangi. Ka mahi au i waipapa taumata rau, kei reira i raro i te kura o he mangatau huko, ara te kura Pākihi. E noho ana au i Wainganui i a rātou o ngā rangatira nei, hei māngai mō mātou o ngā upuko tukutuku, ko tērā te ohu, hei āwhina, hei whakarite ai wetahi o ngā momo kupu reo, hei āwhina a tātou rangatira i uki tō tātou reo rangatira, whai ai wetahi o ngā taonga o tātou katoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora, ana hera. Taupuni.
Kia ora koutou. Ko taipuni ruakere taku ingoa, ko taranaki te ati aua, Ngāti Pro, taitanga mahaku. Whānau apnui o nei iwi. He ringa mahi a muti o taranaki. Ko tai au, tima tai au, e tōk nei ai the karango taku tuakana Mark. Yeah, Mark invited me to come along and have a listen actually, so I thought I'd come and have a listen today. Hey taringa, nuiho, to see hear more about this koutou katoa nei with Mutsu. For a bit of a hikoi back home soon and jump on the computer. Mihi ana, thank you. Kia ora.
Kia ora taipuni. Laurie.
Oh, shall we kiss?
Muted. You're on mute, Laurie.
Hi, thank you, Ned. Kia ora. My name is Lori Hack, and I am probably one of the newer members of the local context team here, and I am going to be charged with working with you all on governance and business model. And I'm really excited to see a demo today. I haven't seen live. I've seen all pieces of it, but not live, so I'm super excited. So thank you.
Kia ora, Laurie. Shannon.
Well, oina bonjour, nenda oina mani duk, nango kwandeshnikas. Bijou and them, Machi Beneshi wish Bodo Wadami, Minwa, Lakuta Ray, Lake Superior, Ojibwe, Nishnabe, Kwandao, Middleville, Wabajo, Zimbing, and Donjaba, Middle Village, and Donjaba, Cultural Pathways Group, LLC, Executive Director / Founder, Minwa, Local Context Strategic Initiatives Advisor, and Dow. Shaganamashi Mumin Majima. Good evening, kia ora. My name is Shannon Martin, and I'm coming to you from Southwest Michigan, Anishinaabe territory, and I'm a citizen of the Gun Lake Band of Potawatomi Indians and a descendant of the Lakudere Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians. And I serve on the project team as a strategic initiative advisor, and I've been on the team since May of this year.
Kia ora, Shannon. Kia koutou. Te tikana.
Kia ora koutou. Nice to have you all with us today. So I'm going to start our presentation. If I can share it, please.
Oh, yeah. I was saying my button.
Swipe it up.
Swipe the thing up.
Swipe the black thing up.
Like listening like I understood.
The toolbar.
Swipe it up.
Up the top. Get that. Swipe that out of the way.
So we have the Zoom screen at the moment.
Or swipe it down.
Swipe it.
Oh.
Choose your tab and then
we have the desktop.
Yeah. And then make a big
shot.
Move them out of the way. Yeah,
there's the purple button.
Sorry, Fana. We'll get there.
Mai te ra, haere tonu. Ka vai.
See the yeah, there we go. Or you can just that little thing.
Thank you for your patience. Just making sure we can get our screen all organised. And by all means, if you have any questions as we go, please just start talking. I've taken you all off the screen. So I'm just going to start off by firstly just giving you a quick overview of our journey for Whakatōhea, and I'm going to hand it over to Courtney and Rangimaria and Anita to go through the TK labels mahi. So just for those of you who don't know anything about Whakatōhea, just want to put our story into a bit of a context. So just for those of you who don't know who we are, who is Whakatōhea, so our name refers to a characteristic of our ancestor Muriwai. And Muriwai was living in a place called Whakatane, west of Opotiki here, and the name is derived from an event where she was known to be stubborn, or a characteristic that was displayed during an event. And so the name Tohe is a translation for the word stubborn, So our tribal name, Whakatōhea, comes from that particular word. So to us, Muriwai was of a high rank in her time, and she was known as a tapairu. She married Tamatea Mātangi, and their children married into the local tribes that were residing here. So we've got a map on the screen there, and the blue lines are representation of our traditional tribal area. And most of the areas that our tribes lived were along the coastline. So there are currently 6 main hapu or sub-tribes. They are Upokorehe around the Ohiwa area, Ngāti Ira at Waiweka, Ngāti Ngahere at Te Rere, Ngāti Patu at Waiawa, Ngāti Rua at Omaramutu, and Ngaitama at Opape. And to us, in our culture, our hapu or the sub-tribes are the kaitiaki or the guardians of their land and other mana whenua. So they have responsibility over decision-making around our lands. A few years ago, in 2010, we undertook a wellbeing survey. And the wellbeing survey was conducted because we were in a place where we, as a community, were struggling, and many of our people were utilising services such as our social and health services. And I guess the government considered us to be a deprived community. So the services that we were delivering or providing for our community were quite unique in a way that we were tailoring our services to meet the needs of our people. In 1865, we had the invasion of the British Crown, and then the following year, our lands were confiscated from our people. And from the generations following those events, our people had been displaced, and I guess the term colonisation had impacted our people quite significantly. So leading up to the year 2010, we wanted to find out more about what our people wanted to see for themselves. So this was the first time that we had actually had a survey of our own people. These were the top 8 aspirations that came out of that particular survey, and we actually managed to survey 750 people. The first one was to have meaningful employment. So the employment opportunities here were very scarce. However, a lot of the jobs that were available were in the kiwifruit industry, farming, forestry. So they were relatively low-skilled, low-paid type of jobs, and our community did actually want more than that. We found out that our people do want to live in our community, although we only have 10% of our iwi living here in Opotiki. So 90% of our people have left. We also wanted to ensure that our people are healthy, well-educated and employed, particularly for our young people, that they wanted to see a thriving iwi. You may have heard about the mussel farm venture that we've participated in over the past few years. So they also wanted to see that as a success. They also wanted to see Whakatōhea lead our economic prosperity, have unity between our hapu, our sub-tribes, and then finally, in that top 8 were to have our treaty settlement settled with the Crown. So I think our iwi has done really well to date to try and address those dreams and aspirations from 11 years ago. Just trying to get our clicker to work. Has to go on this side. This is our vision for the tribe, ko te kai hoki I Waiawa. So this is a Whakatōhea, a proverb that belongs to our tribe, and it's a reflection of the time of our ancestors when they lived and they thrived from the land that they lived on. Waiawa is a place here, and it talks about the abundance of food that our people had available to them. So during the time that we developed this as a vision for our people, it's also a reflection of where we've come from and where we want to go to into the future. The English translation is to be the food bowl that feeds the world, but it's not just about the food, growing food and selling it, but it's also about our culture, our heritage, us as a people, our mātauranga. All of those sorts of things are incorporated in our vision. Next. Go around the corner. Our purpose for Whakatōhea is kia rangatira ai ngā uri o te Whakatōhea, so to lift our nation and to grow and invest in the well-being of our people. So it's about giving a hand up to our whānau and ensuring that we can provide that leadership when necessary. And as a part of the development following the Wellbeing Survey in 2010, we had 6 integrated strategies that we work from today. So right in the centre is our Whakatōhea-tanga, which is everything that belongs to us as Whakatōhea. And that makes us unique. That's our unique identifier as a tribe. And so integrated with all of those are the other 5, which is based around environment, economic development, social well-being, education and health. So these are our 6 well-beings, I guess, and they are equally as important as each other. So today we have work and strategies that we're working from each of those six points. Just want to quickly talk about our Tihi Kāroa team, DigiTech. So a few years ago, we had the opportunity of working alongside the University of Waikato, the Computing and Mathematical Sciences team, to develop a rōpū here, a group based around digital technology. So our idea was to grow Whakatōhea leadership in digital technologies. So we started off by creating this Digital Natives Academy, which we are still running. And each term this year, we've had between 80 to 90 rangatahi participating in our programs. And it's also about developing homegrown coding classes using our Whakatōhea history. So our history, and as I said before, our Whakatōhea-tanga is really important to us, and that's the foundation for everything that we do within each of our services. Next one. So as an example for some of the outcomes that we've been really fortunate to have been a part of, we have been able to create this Whakatōhea waiata app. So it's an app that was created to allow our whānau, as I said before, 90% of our people live away from Opotiki, to engage with them, to allow them to see and to hear and to feel our traditional songs. And it's also a way for us to share our history and to get our whānau reconnected back to their home. So we have this app which we launched about a year ago, and we're continually updating the app. So Anita will talk more about the app a bit later on in terms of its context in relation to the TK labels. And it's also been an opportunity for students from Waikato to participate and work integrated learning within the communities such as Whakatōhea. Next one, please. And then the other awesome opportunity that we've had to participate in is the development of the Whakatōhea Whakairinga Taonga Digital Library. And for us, a digital library for our digital archives, our taonga, would actually help to provide a safe and secure location to store our taonga. We also looking to train our whānau in the use of the digital technology. It's about working with institutions such as Ngā Taonga, Turnbull Library and other places around the country to look at how we can safeguard our taonga. And of course the TK labels are a really important part of that process for us to interact and to engage with those institutions. And then of course we're very fortunate to have also been funded by Ngā Taonga for the majority of the activities that we're undertaking. And then just finally there, we were also lucky enough to have received another fund, the Vision Mātauranga Capability Fund, which is about focusing purely on growing our capability and our capacity to manage the digital archive. So as a part of that, Rangi Maria here will be working alongside our colleagues at university so that she can become the champion and the tohunga, I guess, hopefully for the digital library moving forward. Yep, next slide. So that's my kōrero, thank you. And then I'm going to hand it over to Courtney and Rangi to carry on with the TK levels kōrero.
Yeah, too much. Thanks, Amy. I always love your presentation on Whakatōhea. We're just gonna quickly move the screen so we can see you. Oh, because we were tutuing, and turn it to the left. No, that's right. Oh, to the left, to the left. Woo. Yeah, because that won't interfere, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Come on. Cool. So, kia ora anō, I'm Courtney. Courts, please. I prefer to be called Court. So we're going to talk about. Yeah. I have a reason, but we won't get into it. But it's a cool one. Anyway, so I'm tasked with chunking everything down because this is quite a complex project. So I'm tasked with chunking it down so that we can explain it to our iwi, because without our iwi, this won't go any further than our office. So my part of the project is to help it. Yeah, make it more like palatable for our whānau so they can understand what we're up to. So that's what I'm up to. And Rangs?
What she said.
Yeah, so Rangs helps me with.
I also, I'm part of this project. Yeah. We also have to create a training package in order to be able to reteach it to our iwi, but that is suited for both rangatahi and pakikia. So
yeah, that's because eventually they're going to be the beneficiaries of whatever we create. So it's important for us to be able to teach our adults and our kids. And we have started teaching the kids, and we'll show you how we're doing that very shortly. Okay, cool. So what we're going to go over today are 6 points, and hopefully they're helpful for when you're rolling it out or have already rolled out. And feel free to hit us at the end with any suggestions where we might be able to also do better. So our first thing we're going to cover is what are they? So what are the labels? What we've come to know about them. The second one is why we would use them, and it took us a little while to figure this one out, but once we did, it got rolling, and so then we moved on to where are the labels useful, and then number 4 is what have we learned so far, and number 5, what do we need to learn moving forward, and our last one is how we plan to teach our iwi. So that's what we're going to cover today, and we won't take long, but those are our 6 main points. Oh, did I move it?
No.
Oh. Yeah. Right.
Cool. So what are traditional knowledge labels? We kind of, because it's like such a huge project, we managed to condense it down to like a little bit simple so that we can understand. So we found that the traditional knowledge labels are digital markers for Indigenous communities to add existing local protocols for access and use to digital cultural heritage. TK labels are educational in that they help non-community users who view the material understand its importance and significance to the communities from where it derives. What do? We found out that they put data in context so that it's understandable, makes visible provenance and the ethics of collection. It foregrounds relationships that makes research possible and connects data to people, to environments, and to relationships over time.
Yeah, and we did find that in amongst all of our local context research. So you can actually find those descriptions in the information that's already out there. But we found that these 3 are like the main points. So for instance, if we're trying to explain what they are in summary, these are like really great main points. So that's why we highlighted them. Even though it's your mahi, we took it. Thank you.
Can I just qualify too that this is from a community and iwi perspective?
Yeah.
So given that you guys are all looking at it from different perspectives, this is from our perspective.
Yeah, it's all from our perspective.
Oh, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make it better.
Yeah, cool. Well, you started it. We're just making it how we can understand it. Yeah, cool. So next one. I fire myself. Okay, this is actually a really, sorry.
One button too far.
Yes, that's how I am. So this is an actually really important one, and I really wish that we had have sorted this out ourselves right at the start, because then the why you do it is going to drive you to do the thing. Especially for us, we had no idea what the labels were, very green. And if we had have figured out why it was important for us to do it, then it would have made the rest of the project easy. So if you're just starting out, then understanding why you're doing it for your people is probably a really great start. So the 3 things, there's lots of cool reasons why. And our reasons why came from the Indigenous training we just did with Dr. Jane like a few weeks ago, and then we're like, oh, okay, we got it. So the first one was it puts our voice as Whakatōhea on all our taonga. It puts our voice on it. So even though we did hear that it's not a legal binding thing, it still puts our voice on our stuff. So that's important, our information and our knowledge. And then the second one was it reconnects our people to Whakatōhea taonga and mātauranga currently sitting outside of our rohe. So then, like we went to Te Papa and we saw our taonga and we were like, whoa, we didn't know. So it reconnects us, like being able to just see something visually with a label and then knowing that that's our taonga, it reconnects you straight away. And the third one we found was it allows us as Whakatōhea to adapt TK labels to our needs and share them safely with institutions. So that's a good one too, because being able to build a relationship with the institutions that hold our taonga is a massive part of this project we've come to learn. Yeah. So yeah. Next one. Next.
And so we came up with these, and this is what we found out where they are very useful in terms of whakatōhea. So actually, Dr. Jane, I kind of took some of these ideas from like one of your guys' presentations, but it also helped in terms of, because a part of the contract is building relationships with those institutions that do hold our taonga. So one of them is the museum and archives. So we know that because they hold a lot of our taonga currently, this is where they can be applied to reconnect us and add our voice on there, because there was a lot of taonga and stuff that were in these places that we had absolutely no idea existed. So that's a very useful place for them. Publications like theses and books, and because there's information about our iwi in all of these things that, we also want to make sure we protect and take care of. The national libraries, there was more information. And the other thing I wanted to note is that they're able to be applied to both tangible and intangible cultural material. That was a cool point that I pulled out from the training that we had and out of those presentations that were shared with us. I put online databases as well and platforms, because currently, just like Danny touched on before, we have now a Whakatōhea waiata app. So we know that it's important that these labels get applied to there. Also, we're currently creating a digital library, which is also where we would be able to put them. And also we can apply them to our Whakatōhea website. And then I'm unsure a little bit about how this one works, but I did feel like, because we have cultural heritage sites and we're currently doing a takuhikoi program app that will erect po and will have stories attached to these po per hapu. So I know that these labels can be applied at those places as well to cover those stories. And yeah. Did you want to add anything for us?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right.
All right. Cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. What we've learned so far. So, we started out just teaching each other the labels, because there's 18, and we thought, okay, how are we going to do this? So Rangs came up with the idea to, we play a lot of games to teach our kids, and then she said, sign language. We were like, sign language, because we have we have whanaunga who live in the deaf community and are quite often, what's the word? Isolated from a lot of things. So we ended up creating signs for each of the labels as well, but it also helps us as a team learn them. So at our hui, usually at our hui, we start with a game of learning the sign, and we try and beat each other. FYI, who's winning? Yeah, lots of high competition, but it sticks. It sticks. So if you're teaching anyone, use a game. So we learn sign language so that we could to be inclusive, but also so we can teach our tamariki. So we learned how to do that. Then we learned that probably knowing basic knowledge, IP is probably a great idea. It was like after the fact, but I'm very glad we did, because that made us realise that IP has been used in the past to dispossess us of our taonga, which is why the labels are really cool, because they, even though they can work as a way, that we recognise IP, which is we all are kaitiaki. Nobody owns anything, whereas IP, it's very individual or corporate based, and our person or our entity owns it. But with the labels, we're just kaitiaki. We're kaitiaki. We don't own anything, but we safeguard. So that was what we learned. And relationships, whanaungatanga, very important to be good friends with archives and our national whānau and all the ones in the museums. They're going to be very important relationships to cultivate and nurture going forward. And the scope, the last thing we realised was how big the scope was, and it wasn't until we did that training, which we're so grateful for, with the Dr. Jane and the Penetta Scott people. Had we not done that training, we wouldn't have realised how big this project is, like the scope. So we're very, very thankful for that. We're so happy we did that training. It was amazing. Cool. I talk a lot. So that was important. Yeah.
And what do we need to learn moving forward? So we're still learning the meanings and understanding the meanings of the labels. We do know the labels by image and by name in all three languages.
And what they mean.
And we kind of briefly know what they mean, but we're still learning more about the rest. Which led us to the customization, which we have a wānanga coming up with our iwi, because that's also a part of this project for us as Whakatōhea, is to customize them individually to Whakatōhea protocols. We do have a word for that, which is whatutohea, which is whatutohea, which is Whakatōhea cultural lens. We made that name up as a team. And then number 3 was the effects and impact that this can have on our iwi. And we still don't know completely as a whole what that is. We just know right now that it's going to be huge, and that we know that it's very important. We put in our number 4 to attend another workshop training, like Nip It with Dr. Jane.
Yeah, we're coming for you.
We're coming for you. We just feel that it's super important for us to continue to learn and to understand this project, specifically for Whakatōhea as it unravels. And then number 5, obviously, is to teach and continue to wānanga with our iwi and our kaumātua, and and ensure that the integrity of this whole entire project and what we add to it as Whakatōhea is upheld. Koina.
Okay, so that brings us to okay, so these are the labels. These are the labels we know and have come to know. I think we already covered all that. Yeah, we did. We're just going to carry on because we already talked about what we. So these are the labels, and they're cool. So they've each got. I think was it you, Maui, that worked with the dude that translated them?
Yeah. Haki Tuopiki.
Yeah. So we do. We will add the Māori translations to each of the labels. But they also have sign, which brings us to the next slide.
So this is our whanaunga, Malia Everton Tiru. She is one of 3 trilinguists currently in Aotearoa. And what she is currently signing is both traditional knowledge labels and TK labels. We're very grateful for her in terms of the work and the connections that she helped connect us with people, respective people within the deaf community in Aotearoa. She worked tirelessly with us overnight, doing the videos for us and researching. We sent all the information about the labels. So actually at that point in time, she knew far more about the labels than we did, because she wanted to ensure that it was understandable to the deaf culture. And although the words that have been associated both English and Māori with the labels, it translated into something completely different for the deaf culture in terms of making sure that they understood the labels. Yeah, so yeah. That brings us to the next. That brings us to the next one. Okay, can we change it?
Oh yeah, that's right. This label is Community Voice. I roto i te reo o te hapori. And as you can see there, Malia is doing the New Zealand sign for it, which is actually share. So Community Voice to the deaf community means sharing your kōrero. So that's why it's share. Because we did have another one, but it was incorrect. So we had to go to share. So this label is used to encourage community members to share their knowledge, stories and experiences. And where this could be applied is to the mural down the bottom, which is of Miriwai. So that mural was created by Mr. G, but it was created with the kōrero that he received from the community. So he came up with this vision based on the stories that were told through wānanga. So if you were going to put a label on this, Community Voice would be one of them, because it was a works that was created by the community through their voice. Make sense?
Yes. Practice.
Practice. So what is it?
How can you play the video?
Te reo o te hapori.
Share.
Share. Cool.
Yeah.
Next one.
This is community use only. Video doesn't want to play. Mā te hapori anake. And the sign associated is this, which is iwi. And so this sign, iwi, is what's recognised within the Māori deaf community. They do have another sign for iwi on NZSL. However, within the Māori deaf community, it's this one, which is iwi. We know that obviously this label can be applied to our Whakatōhea waiata app, because only Whakatōhea uri can access the full version of the app. And this label should be used when you would like external users to know that this material is subject to certain conditions of circulation, namely that this material is usually not circulated beyond family, clan or community. So yeah, so iwi.
So these 2 slides, so we're only teaching you 2 today, but these are the kind of slides that we'll be teaching out, rolling out to the iwi. So apart from, we'll be using these slides to explain, but then we'll also come away from the screen and gamify it. So Zang's created a heads up game. You know that heads up game on a device, and the thing comes up here, and the other people have got to sign it to you, and if they get it right, they get a point. So that's how we're gamifying this. So we're going to teach them this way, and then make them compete in an arena. But it makes it work. So Shank. How did you?
Like a week of it? I've only had like a week of it.
She had a week of it, and she was like at the top of the table by our next hui. So it worked. Yeah, and she was teaching me. I was like, what? No, anyway, it works. Like gamifying things is very important for our team to roll it out, because it will solidify the learnings, because anybody that's in a state of happiness is gonna take in whatever learnings that you're offering. So that's what we have for you today. We've got one more slide at the end, but we're going to pass it over to Whaia. All right? Kia ora whānau.
Kia ora tātou. So you're probably thinking, now why do they call me Whaia? As we all, wahine, Kaya Kosa was a teacher for 20-something many years and a tumuaki principal for 10 years. Yes, I taught rangi, and so it's great to see that our teachings, have carried on and will continue. Nō reira, so what you can see on the screen is two of our whenua, two of our strands taken from our education strategy, Whakatōhea Maurua. So the first strand, both two strands come from our whakatauaki by one of our tipuna wahine, Te Ao Putaputa, where she said, whaia, te tikahurangi ki te tuohupue me he maunga teitei. So we have put our two whenua under this whakatauaki. So the first one, ngā putanga ako, our strategy outcomes. As Danny had presented earlier about the wellbeing survey, this was also part of the survey, and this is what came out from that amazing survey it was with all the different results. Our education manager at the time, he created, developed, strategized, had lots of wānanga to create our education strategy. And so we have 10 strategy outcomes. The last one, which I want to really talk about, is our digital technology. So that was only added in 2018 when once I came on board as kaiarahi for this kaupapa. So I'm not a manager, I'm a contractor, and I work within all our preschools, wharekohungahunga, our kohanga reo, our kura, mainstream, kura kaupapa as well, and our college as well as adult tertiary, which you can see identified in our whainga under the second whenua, under the second strand, our goals. So all those whainga, we created a team, a ropu, in 2018 called Kairaranga Maurua. So Kairaranga meaning weavers of our education strategy. So as you can see at the back too is also a whāriki mat woven by one of our own people from Whakatōhea, and where you can see the connection, that's what the maurua is. So a whāriki extends when you add a maurua onto it, mainly because the strands get shorter, but also to strengthen the whāriki. So these whāriki, we just finished completing a project for Turanga Waiwai, creating 10 whāriki. We were engaged with Te Arawa, or Ngāti Pikiao, and they presented to Te Kingitanga a couple of weeks ago, just before lockdown. So fortunately they were passed on, ready for the koronehana. Hoia not, that didn't happen. But so a maurua is very important about strengthening and intertwining each of our kaupapa all the time, intertwining all our strategy outcomes. So one is not important without the other. They are all equally important, like Danny also expressed. So the digital technologies is the space that we're focusing on for this kaupapa, but as you know, Te Reo Māori is also inclusive there. I'm actually thinking about changing that just to Te Reo, because then that would include Te Reo Utaropa. It's not identified in our strategy, so it's another kaupapa I've been thinking about and to share with my rōpū. So we have 5 of us on our rōpū, on our kairaranga rōpū, and as you can see, there's also 5 goals. So when we first started, we all looked after one goal. We met regularly every 2 weeks, then changed to a month, and it was just to share where we were coming from each of those kaupapa. So how does that involve our traditional knowledge labels? Everything within those strategy outcomes, we know every time I look at something now, that's all I see in my head. Oh, which TK label will that fit? you know, I mean, how would the TK label fit into that kaupapa or that taonga? So every one of those taonga, right down to our kaumātua, you know, everything they share. So recently, as Rangi has spoken about, we're doing a new app called Taku Hikoi, like a heritage trail. And we're sharing a lot of kōrero within a few organisations. So we are combining, working collectively with Whakatōhea University, Opotiki District Council, our Opotiki College, specifically our Maurua, which is our kaupapa Māori unit. Who else? Oh, ngā taonga. Oh, our own taonga, sorry, our own whare taonga, our archives, Whakatōhea archives, and also, our hapu. So every one of our hapu is included in this Hikoi app, Taku Hikoi app. And just recently we had a big kōrero with different representatives from each hapu, and every time they spoke, I kept thinking, okay, so which TK label would that part of their kōrero fit? Every part of their kōrero had a different, could relate to a different label. So we'll talk about, next slide please, our waiata app. So you've already heard all the background and all that kōrero. And so we're going to just choose one of our waiata on our app. So the first picture you can see there has Ingoa Waiata by title. We're going to look at one of our very famous waiata called E Koreo, created by Rangi Maria's Nan, and another of our matua from Torere Nui Arua, Maxwell. Tawhiro Maxwell. I don't know mine. So as you can see, he waiata Rongonui, one of our famous waiata that gets sung everywhere, and you can see the two labels on there. However, we didn't learn those two labels today. Yeah.
It's clan.
So one is clan, or which one is
outreach.
That's attribution.
That's attribution.
Another one. What is this?
Outcall is outreach.
Oh yeah, that one. So we've decided that each waiata, like I've spoken about, each kōrero or each taonga would have its own specific label. But however, the whole app will be presented with the, what's your name?
Community use only.
Kapai.
Iwi.
Mate hāpori amaki. Okay, so that's the whole app. But each specific waiata, because of its different kōrero, will have a different
different sets of labels.
Yeah, specific for that waiata. So it's only just the beginning, but yeah, that's what we can see happening. So kia ora.
And just to the two labels that you can see for E Koreo. So what was the first one? Sorry.
That first one, that's clan.
So clan. The context behind the label for clan is that it can be used within your clan, your hapu, your sub-tribe, your iwi. And the other one is called outreach, or in Māori is toro.
Oh, it's toro, that's right. We changed it. That's ako.
Well, ako is associated to the sign language. And also tells that outreach is a label that encourages learning and all of that stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why that label is there for E Koreo. So you can have people like Rangi Courtney Whaia who could go to teach others about this particular waiata. And so that's what that label is for.
Yes, so
it acknowledges that part.
As an example, can we go back to the former slide? As an example, so you can see here on the whāinga on the right hand side where it says he uri no te whakatōhea, e kore au e ngaro, e kore au e whakamā, e kaha nei ahau ki te kimi ki te rapu kōwai au, mane ne ki te motu, mane ne ki te ao aha pēhea rā, e kore wareware ki taku upaipo. Those are the kupu of the waiata of e kore au.
Yeah.
So hence, how we're trying to, not how we're trying to, how we have intertwined everything, made everything connect. Koina.
Yeah.
Okay, and then last slide.
Last slide, yeah. So this is the last slide, but I just wanted to, I didn't touch on, so at our wānanga, we've got a wānanga coming up with the iwi, that we've decided on two main things that we're going to wānanga about, and the first one is to explain the very basics of Indigenous, intellectual property rights. So we're gonna start there so that our whānau can, well, firstly have an understanding of IP, but also to see how it has been used as a tool to dispossess us. And then we're going to teach them the labels and then start customising them during that wānanga. And we might need a couple of wānanga to do it because we're Whakatōhea and sometimes that might happen. But those are our two main objectives for our first wānanga. I didn't touch on it, but that's our plan. Yeah, so go down.
Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Cool. So the first one, to Dr. Jane and all the Indigenous communities working tirelessly to protect Indigenous taonga and mātauranga around the world. We are forever grateful that we're included in this kaupapa, which leads us to Maui for connecting us as Whakatōhea to this kaupapa. We put in our acknowledgments to our whanaunga Malia for her invaluable contribution to this kaupapa and ensuring the integrity of both this kaupapa and deaf culture are upheld. To Sean and the team at Ngā Taonga for not just funding us to do this project for our iwi, but for being so open and welcoming and just letting us figure it out and helping us and encouraging us along the way and just being so open and showing us all that belongs to us as Whakatōhea. Yeah, being patient.
Understanding.
Yeah. Koina, all of it. And then our last acknowledgement was to our team and to our manager, Danny, for always showing up, ensuring that everything we do is for the betterment of our iwi. Yeah, that's what we strive to do all the time, is making sure that whatever we do contributes back to the wellness of our people. And yeah. And if you want to know more about TK labels, head over to the Local Context Hub at localcontext.org. You will literally find everything on the website that you need to know. Or feel free to contact any one of us if you want to know more about what we're doing as Whakatōhea. We have gamified a lot of it, so for our own personal reasons, so we can learn, because we all learn differently, but we found that it is very effective and it works. So and that's us.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you for listening. This has been an incredible journey so far, just learning and understanding this world of labelling, IP, Indigenous IP, Indigenous mātauranga and taonga. So I hope you got something out of that, but yeah, we're definitely open for questions.
Yeah.
Kia ora, ke si o Pakipaki.
Thank you.
Mena te Hai te pirang ngā mea anō pātai mai kia mātou. If you have any other questions, please fire away.
What?
Anahira, would you like to do your question?
Te mea tuatahi. E ngā uri o te tōpairu muri wai rāua ko tamatea mātangi. Kei runga no atu koutou. Oh, we taukiri e. It was absolutely lovely. I've got two pātai for you. One is, from your learnings, do you think that there's anything that we need to improve upon around the TK labels? And the other one is for those of Whakatōhea who might be living wāhi ke, that haven't learnt the use of those labels or the titles of those labels, do you have links within the app so that they can understand what that means? So, you know, the ones that are hapori, anahi, don't get spread wider.
Kia ora.
You did the improvements one.
Yeah, the improvements. I think, I don't know about improving the labels as such, but I feel for us, if we had maybe had that IP training at the start, it would have saved a lot of time. We did get a bit of training, I think, or maybe it's just because of the way we operate, but that Indigenous training we had a few weeks ago was majorly like that was, for us, it just broke down all of our walls, because we were like, not sure, or even just sitting down with sitting down and really nutting out why. Did you have an improvement for that? We're still to learn the local context hub and the links and how to use them and stuff, but did you have any? No, they're pretty cool, but yeah, definitely having some IP, that IP training at the start of the project would have been primo. Yeah.
So I think for Mark and others, the other iwi, perhaps that's a good starting place for you guys if you haven't quite got into where we're at the moment. Just one other improvement, I guess. I know that the Reo Māori Haki had participated in that, but as we've been going along, some of it doesn't quite match up with our understanding behind the label. So we're learning more about the label, and then we're looking back at the kupu, the translation that's been provided, and it doesn't quite align. So I guess for us, it's coming back to you guys and ensuring, do we iwi-ize the kupu so that it suits us, or is there something more generic that suits all iwi? So that was something else that we're still probably learning about as well. And although this is, the kupu Māori is a new thing, it's new that's just been applied to the labels, but Māori might want to.
Yeah, look, so I think, tūtai mihi ana kia koutou. Tō koutou maia, ki te whakatina ni ngā whakaaro mō ngā TK labels. So, yeah, and I think this is the thing, it's evolved out of use with communities, and so it gets shaped. So it's not saying, things all have to be done that way. And I think with the te reo part, as you've kind of picked up a bit more of that nuance that needs to be done, Haki wasn't applying the labels at the time, so he was translating largely just straight off the English. So, that whole thing you're saying, even about the deaf culture, you've got to get the kind of what the meaning is, and then convey the meaning. And sometimes you don't do that when you're kind of translating off the words. So, yeah, if we can refine that, we're totally happy to work through that.
And just sorry, taku aroha. I'm just under that, Maui. Is there anything wrong with them using reo a iwi?
No. Kia pai. So there's, I guess, two things around the descriptions. So the labels have a description which kind of generally means that people use, like everyone uses it in the same sort of way. Otherwise, if people were using the same label in a whole variety of different ways, then that would make it confusing for the people you're trying to influence. So there's a sort of trying to do that. But the actual language around it is in some ways a bit of a guide. And then in the customizing of the language associated with the label anyway, which is the one that sits alongside it, that's what they do. So it represents a reo a iwi, a whakaaro a iwi, mo taua tohu.
Yeah. Sorry, we did get why to use this label and a template for customization. So we did have a tutu around with that. So it was easier for us to do it at the wānanga. So we have played around with customizing it and using our Whakatōhea lens. So when you get it's on the local context hub anyway, the one that it's for, and then a space to add a customized version of it.
Just to answer your other question, Anahira, just in relation to whānau who don't know what the labels are, I guess what I'd like to see, and it's probably comes down to our IT specialist to make sure it can happen, is that so the waiata app as an example, if they tap on one of those labels, there'll be a little bubble that will come up that will give you the description about what that actually means. So wherever the labels are applied, whether they're in our digital library or in other locations and other data sets, if there's a label there, if you can just tap on it, and then the bubble will come up as to explain what that actually represents in terms of the description for that particular taonga. So hopefully that would help to ensure that whānau who see it for the first time can be better informed about what those labels actually mean. So yeah, I guess Dr. Jane and everybody else would, I don't know how else other Indigenous groups are doing that, but that's how I'd like to see it.
Yeah, and I suppose this question is more for Sian and those at Alexander Turnbull and Te Rua Mahara that might be sitting in this, is that once you attribute your labels to those taonga a Whakatōhea, would the, in your relationship building, would those institutions be prepared to utilise those labels within their own so that they're aware of when those things come up and they know it's relevant to Whakatōhea, that you lead those decisions around what labels are being used on those taonga that they currently hold?
Yeah, kia ora, I can speak to that. Yes and yes. So I'm a contractor. I'm only involved with this kaupapa until June next year, but what we have been doing has been slowly introducing other team members from Ngā Taonga who will be staying on permanently to nurture and, as the sister said earlier, cultivates those relationships. We're currently developing a CRM system which we're hoping will speak to we're currently working on a new CRM system which we're hoping will speak to the back end of the local context hub as well. And so this pilot is not only going to enable us to build relationships with Whakatōhea, keep in contact with them with regards to the taonga that we are kaupipiri of, that is theirs, but also to establish this kaupapa with other iwi entities and Roku that we work with also. I hope I answered the question. I felt like I answered it like a politician without actually answering it.
Kia ora, Sian. Yeah, that's the intention. I think on the header is that we will work together to apply. So for us, for Whakatōhea, the taonga they have there stored on our behalf, that we apply our labels with our descriptions. And, in terms of access or permissions and protocols around utilisation of that taonga, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to add to, although our first idea to introduce sign language was done through was meant to be fun and interactive and for us to learn, it took on a bigger meaning because we have whānau who are deaf. And when we first decided and be like, yes, we want to do this, we instantly made contact with Maui and with Dr. Jane to see if this was okay to add this. And so we asked them how sign language could contribute back to this kaupapa. And Dr. Jane, I remember her sharing that adding sign to this project instantly made it far more inclusive than it had ever been before, because she did share with us that she didn't even think about it. And because we understood that sign language is an official language of New Zealand, it made it even more bigger, and it made it even more important to ensure that we are including our whānau who don't know about the projects or who don't even know about, or haven't learnt as much about their Whakatōhea sides. It took on a far bigger meaning, and while we were adding sign to this, we got to learn that actually sign language is done in a way that's very similar to Te Reo Māori. It's learnt and it's shared and it's understood in the exact same way, which we got to learn that the Māori translations turned out to be a transliteration, and it didn't really give the full essence and context of what the labels actually are. And so doing the sign made us understand that and see that. And when I think one of the labels is seasonal, and we got confused because the Te Reo Māori translation is wā kaupeka, and we hadn't heard of that before.
Also, we're easily confused.
Yeah, and because seasonal to us is wāhanga, or we use kupu like that. And so we were just like, oh, are we allowed to add our own reo to it, or do we have to learn that, still keep this reo? But yeah, I think the important thing for adding sign to this for us made us very well aware of that and helped contribute back to why we are doing it in the first place. So,
also giving us the space to be able to fiddle about, you know,
Yeah.
like, and ask and approach and say, hey, actually, can we do this our way? So they've given us that freedom to figure it out and try it on, see if it works. So if you're just starting out the project, just go and ask, and they usually say yes.
What do you mean usually? When did I say no?
Yes. I was just like, just in case you did, I was giving you that space to.
Oh, killed it.
80-20 rule. So yeah, so totally that. Any more?
Any more questions?
Comments?
Oh, one more down.
Kia ora. I don't really have, it's not really, a question might come out of it, but we'll see what happens. I just want to, you know, I sat through that with pretty much the whole presentation with a big grin from ear to ear, laughing. It was inspiring from you fellas. It really was. The fact that you've gone so far as to link it back to the strategy for Whakatōhea, and rolling it out across, you know, all of those po to deliver back to your whānau, to your people, is massive. It's massive. You know, I kind of think of it in a little bit more of a silo about, so my background's in science, so I kind of think of it in a little bit of a silo of trying to control the current sort of interactions that we have with science community, you know, coming into places like the Waipawa, and in that context, but you've just opened it all up. You know, you've opened up how big a context we're actually talking about. Your delivery, you fellas, magic. I see someone's recording this. You've basically done my job for me, which is to really put it into context and to find an audience within Te Roroa that this appeals to. Because I don't have time to, it feels like it's been kind of a singular process with just me interacting with Maui and Jane, which I've really, really, really enjoyed, you know, sort of that little journey that I've walked with these guys, but you've just blown it out of the water for me and made it easier to kind of understand that there's a whole bigger picture here. And this, I think this, you know, for us, this needs to go out to those representatives who are in that position to say, yes, this is a concept we need to get behind and push it out to our people, find the right people to do. So in this whole hour and 20 minutes, you guys have achieved that for me, and I want to say thank you for doing that, because that's huge. And the other thing too, which is really quite cool, you know, my little brother has Down syndrome, and I spent a lot of time as a kid, we still do, basic sign language, nothing to, I'm not going to be standing behind Jacinda Ardern and Dr. our updates, shall we say, but I still do, you know, and to bring that into to the labels and to the context is massive. But also understand that what you guys are doing are creating a digital language, incorporating all of this stuff behind and relating it back to a whakapōhea. It's I don't know, I don't even think there's a word for it. It's massive. So yeah, I've got no questions because you've answered them all. You've answered, basically for me was, how do you, how I've loved the concept from day dot being introduced by Jane and Maui. My big question was, how do we implement it? You're doing it. So no questions from me. Just a massive thank you for sharing, and keep the bloody good work up. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Kia ora Tahoe. Hey, can I ask your question for you? So the question that Tahoe wanted to ask, and then so you know, because we've been having a talk with him about the science context and the use in that space, and all of the examples which you were talking about are the ones around te reo, ngā waiata, kind of the cultural space. But I know, you know, we've got the Moana project, which sort of starts to straddle some of the mātauranga, but then into the science things. When are you going to start thinking about that part? Does that come later, the thinking about those other use of the other labels?
I think for us, we really need to get knuckle down the TK labels before we go on to the biocultural ones. Because I think if we set the template out properly for us to build the descriptions behind those TK labels for us, for Whakatōhea, then going into the biocultural labels, using the same process will make it a lot easier. I totally understand from the science perspective those other labels which we haven't yet got to. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of picking up that template, the process that we're using to understand and to learn and to customize it for us as Whakatōhea would make it a lot easier for us. But yeah, we'll work on the first 18, smash it out, get it all sorted, totally understand what we're doing, and then we can pick these other ones up on the biocultural side, and it'll just make it a whole lot easier for us to, rather than trying to pick up another 10 and then confusing us even more.
Then we're going to wānanga with all our brainy people and the fishermen. And we're going to wānanga the biocultural labels with our fishermen fellas, because they're our scientists here.
Right.
Our bushmen, our fishermen, our ruku kai, our kai gatherers, and you brainy scientist people, so you can come.
Actually, I have found a question. I have found a question based on something that I just wanted to know how important was the connection with the University of Waikato in the digital learning space to you fellas?
Integral. Yeah. I think we wouldn't have got started without their support. So they bring the computer sciences perspective into play. So they supported us to develop a really basic, almost a bridging kind of a program for computer sciences. But so we've tailored that to a primary school year 8, year 9, year 10 level. But it's the skills that they learn out of that will actually help them to move straight into a university level. But I guess, yeah, we're learning some coding as a basic computer sciences. But on top of that, we're throwing in these other projects like TK labels. So we're doing some specific projects that the outcomes are right here for us as Whakatōhea. The waiata app, the library. So they're things that we are ensuring that our whānau are participating in. And as we get used to this TK labels, the application of the TK labels, then there's that side of things in terms of the digital technology end. So we're hoping that as an iwi we can manage all of the start and the end of anything that we do in the digital space. So that's really important to us.
And within our kura community, all our kura kohanga ECE, they've always been asking for our own local curriculum kaupapa. And so having the waiata app available for them has already created amazing units that they're creating. And working alongside with the college where they've begun our takuhikoi kaupapa, by the tamariki coming up with different waiata, again in alignment with another pātere that we have. And so they created that as an example, and also musical compositions. So our college has created a musical composition for one of our waiata, just as an example, and to see if that's what our iwi want, because one of the first questions was, how do we know how to sing the waiata? I said, well, there's a recording on the app, so you listen to it. What if we're like musically inclined? You can play musical instruments. How can we learn how to play it? So yeah, our college created the music club class, created the musical composition, and then also our iwi asked, what about actions? So same way again, all those different taonga, the musical composition, the actions, don't also again have their own TK labels. Amazing. Huge.
In terms of the relationships with Waikato University, well, thankfully I inherited the relationship because I came and the team had already created it. But they are wanting relationships We went down to Wellington and they just like the red carpet was, they had never had an iwi team, or especially our size, come and visit the archives. They want to build relationships. That's what we found when we were down in Wellington. And our the Whakatōhea professors, they're cool. Like they even come down here and we have kaitahi, they stay at our houses. Like, we're bros, but they really want that relationship because also we're not represented in, Māori aren't very highly represented in the computer science space, as you'll probably know. So they're pushing that. So they want those relationships, so if you're ready to build them. Danny, he's bros with them.
And just one other thing in relation to Waikato. So because of our relationship, they've been able to send down student interns over summer. We've actually got one working on the Taku Hikoe app right now with us. So we're utilising the students' time to help build the technology that we require. So the waiata app, we had 3 different students at different times come as interns and sit with us, work alongside us to help develop that waiata app. So I guess in terms of resourcing, it helps to, utilising skills of others. The students are actually getting their learning as a part of their work integrated learning program. So it's an amazing relationship I think we've created. We're getting things out of it as an iwi, as a tribe. They're learning, and we're maintaining that relationship with Waikato through those different activities.
Yeah, I just want to add to that too. We currently have 4 modules based for coding that they helped us create, which are fully aligned to the education strategy outcomes, like national outcomes, and they're all based off of our cultural storytelling. And so Shaniqua, she's the facilitator now from Courts to Shaniqua, and she's currently teaching Te Tapu o Muriwai to our tamariki, and we were able to implement TK labels, the TK labels learning into that module in order to teach our tamariki. So yeah, we have a very great relationship with Waikato University and specifically the School of Computer Sciences and Mathematics. They just go above and beyond for us, and we met one of the professors in one of their hallways in a corridor, and he asked who we were, and Alvin introduced, these are our colleagues from Whakatōhea, and he was like, what do you do? We're like, we teach our tamariki the fundamentals of computer sciences through cultural storytelling. And he was just like, how old are they? And we're like, well, at the moment the majority of our tamariki are in primary school. And he goes, cool, I want them when they're ready for university. Yeah, because there's not enough of them. And so,
yeah, that was a long answer, eh?
Long answer.
That was a good answer though.
They're very passionate about our whānau and Waikato.
Man, awesome.
Any other questions or comments?
It's hot on you. Yes.
Our whānau from Taranaki, just wonder if you guys got any comments?
Kia ora koutou. I really just wanted to support what Da'oho said. You know, you've done our job for us, and you've really inspired us to. I guess I was very much like our bro there, a bit of a spectator, trying to really understand the importance of the kaupapa, but trying to understand how to apply it and how to implement it. And you've really led the way on that. And in a context that's really understandable for myself and for our uri. You've taken all the jargon out of it, you put it into common sense, you've crunched it down, and we can really see, I can really see how I can use that, or how our iwi can use that in all of the kaupapa that we do. We've got a huge focus on our taio. We've got a big team in that space, so that the BC labels are going to be a big piece of that, but also the TK labels are just, I really get it now. You've really shone the line on it for me, which is which is awesome. And then all the other kaupapa that you've gone on, like I'm quite keen on looking at your taku hikoi app, your waiata app, all those things, you know, the aspirations that we have, and it's really good that you're taking the lead in that computer science space. You're trailblazing it for us, and really stoked that you're sharing it with us. You're sharing your success, your wins, identifying your issues. Outstanding presentation. I've got some stuff that you could come and present for me every now and then, because as a team you present so well and you put your twist on it, you own it. It was beautiful. Kia ora.
I want to cut it down, Maki.
Or you can go the other way, east to the west or west to the east.
Yeah, I'll come all the way.
Traveling. We'll do a tour. I want to go see Sean next.
Kia ora, Mark. Thank you for your comments, and no, we do have an amazing team here. Just if there's anything you want to learn more specifically about for anybody. So even if it's on some of those other side projects, hey, we're more than happy to run you through what we've done in that in those other fields as well. I mean, it's all related to what we're doing with the TK labels and everything. But yeah, by any means, if you guys want to learn anything else that we are doing in the other spaces, our program Tiki Karua with Shaniqua or the apps, just let us know. We're happy to share. Because I think if there's anything that we can offer to you, you know, that's our koha to you.
You're more than welcome to use the sign language too. It's New Zealand Aotearoa wide, so it's not Whakatōhea specific.
Kia ora. Hey, just sort of adding into that too. So, you know, you've probably seen that they have been really good at doing that weaving, the whakatōhea mauro of different kaupapa, and across different sorts of stages. So, you know, there's always other bits which get in, and the Pūhoro STEM Academy, which is, you know, so they've been talking about the sort of like the primary school level part. At the secondary school level, there's a Pūhoro STEM Academy, and that was more down Massey and down your way in Taranaki, and it's just coming across to the bay, and we're just trying to give them a push to make sure they get down to the college and help too. But you can see how, you know, you do a little bit there and then a little bit there and a little bit there, and then sort of weave some strands through it all. And I think that's what these guys have been really great at. And partly, I think part of that has been partly because we've been able to get a bit of funding and resourcing into a team, so that they can, you know, it wouldn't have happened if it was, you know, just one person by themselves, but as the group, that's what's really made it push along. So I just need to say thanks to Ngā Taonga as well, who were able to kick in some funds to do this. But that might be one of the things that we end up having a bit of a talk about, is what some other avenues for getting funding to just kind of turbocharge some of your activities in your communities.
Yeah, and if there's any assistance that we can provide to around other potential funding avenues that you might want to, you know, some additional support on, just hit me up as well.
I do know that Manatū Taonga are looking, they've got money left over from the Mātauranga Māori Fund, so they are looking at releasing another fund. So if you want some information, link in with Danny, he'll link you in with me and I'll send through. But it only came out to us today, so I don't have any more information other than there's putia sitting there that they want to spend on Mātauranga Māori.
Great shot, Sean.
Thank you.
All right.
Just quickly, the other kaupapa that we have with Sean is Ruki Tia. So digitising our old videos, our VHF video cassettes. So we've got a wānanga coming up on the 19th and 20th here in Whakatōhea with Sean and her team, so thank you, Sean. The day after that, we've got our TK Labels wānanga with our iwi. I guess I can put it out there for you guys. If you want to join in on Zoom just to watch the wānanga, I'm more than happy if you want to zoom in, and it might be, it'll be over a 2-day period, but I'm happy if you guys want to link in and just observe how the wānanga goes with our iwi. I guess from here, the wānanga is going to be a next big step for us in terms of pulling a lot of the labelling side of things together. Anita and our team are working also with Local Context Hub to continuing to trial the interaction in the digital space. For me, I think it's really nailing down how we interact digitally between the different spaces, between our digital library, between our taonga, and how we apply the labels to those taonga. So that's going to be a big process, I guess, in ensuring that we can manage that well. And then moving into the next few months is then, once we get those sorted, we get the descriptions for each of the labels sorted, then it's about working with our whānau to start applying the labels to our taonga. And that's a big process in itself. But once we get to that point, we've already done all the preparation, so and that's not just months, but I guess years of work that's going to continue into the future for our whānau, our hapu, our specialists in that field to work together to apply the labels. So that's kind of where we're at moving forward. Anything else?
No, Mike. You did great.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you all. It's just been great to get the feedback from you as well. Just some acknowledgements of what you thought about the presentation and then where we're at. And if there's another, if you need another time to meet up, we'll be more than happy to schedule another hui in the near future. And also connecting up with some of our whānau, such as Sean and them, or any other relationships that we've established through the project. If you want to connect up with any of them as well, just let us know.
Ka pai. Well, e mihi ana kia koe tēnei o tira koutou katoa. Koutou te Whakatōhea, whāriki mai o koutou whiako, o whakaro, o pukenga, ke mua te aroari tēnei ahiahi. O tira koutou I whai wāhi ki te whakaronga ki tēnei o ngā whakaaturanga. Tēnā koutou ngā whānau e tautoko nei I tēnei kaupapa, ngā tohu tikanga nei. Nō reira, tēnā koutou. Look, just thanks everyone. And this has been recorded, so it will be available. We'll work in with Danny and them and around how that comes about and how you can share that with share some of their love with your whānau and your places to help them understand it, because obviously their way of describing it is better than mine and Jane's. But it's good. And I think this is a really an important and inspiring presentation. So thank you, fellas. And I'll just kick it back to Anita. Anita, hei whakakapi I tēnei.
Kia ora.
Nā mihi, anoho ki mihi ki tātou rōpui, tātou tīmatu tāhui, o te Whakatōhea mō tēnei rā. Nō rei, ka hoki ngā whakawhetai ki tō tātou nei matsu kia o. E te ata nau I ata whai mai a mātou I tēnei rā, anoho ki te whaka ngāwari mai, te kaupapa hei tutuki ngā hua o tēnei kaupapa o ngā mātauranga o a tātou nei iwi taketake. Kia reira kia ta whai mai e te ariki kia mātou I tēnei rā. Ko ta tari nei o ki mātou kia koe, ko koe tonu hei ringaringa arahi, o mātou I tēnei rā, whakapora noi a mātou. I ngā wā te raru, koe a mātou ka whakamumisi, ka whakakrori ki toi ngā tapu, e te atu whakatūwhiritia mai ngā kuaha o te tiko, te pono o te oro, te kaho, te māramatanga kia mātou katoa. Ama mātou koe whakamumisi, whakakrori ki toi ngā tapu. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Sean and Sean.
Kia ora. I'm at the airport and I'm supposed to have a mask on. But thanks for having us, team. Catch up soon.
Kia ora.
Traki te.
Our manager's shouting us lunch.
Yes.